Hey folks, thank you for watching You Can Do It. In this episode of You Can Do It, we're going to be installing a 150 CFM exhaust fan by Panasonic. It's super quiet. It's got a 6-inch duct on it. It moves a lot of air. It's one of the top fans, top rated fans. We're going to show you how to install this thing start to finish. There's never been an exhaust fan installed in this bathroom, from the wiring all the way to the installing the switches. We're going to show you how you can do it. So before we get started, these are the materials that you're going to need for this install. Depending on how far you're going to be installing your exhaust fan from your gable vent, or however you're going to vent this thing, we're going to show you how we're going to do it. We're going to need, well, probably about 30 feet of 6-inch duct. So this ducting right here comes in a bag. It'll stretch out to 8 feet, even though it looks like it's in a 2-foot bag. You can stretch this stuff out. It's 6-inch, and it's for a kitchen and bath venting. So we've got 4 of those. I've got some switches down here. I got a 2-gang switch bank. We're going to put this thing on it's a 1-hour timer. So you can select 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes. So the fan doesn't just stay on all day when your kids go in and use the bathroom. And then we've got these switches here. This is going to control the lights, the night light and the main light. So we'll be able to split that up. So we're going to stack all of this in this 2-gang box right here. We've got a 2-gang Decora vinyl nylon plate. We've got some couplers here to couple the 6-inch ducting. We've got 3 or 4 of those. We've got some aluminum tape by Nashu. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And then we've got some strapping here to strap our duct up to the truss work. And then we've got a 6-inch louvered vent hood. So this is going to mount on the outside of the house. This is, well, we got this at Home Depot. I was hoping to find a metal one, but this will work. The louvers just open up. They open up when the exhaust fan kicks on. So it's plastic, and we'll be installing that. And it has this piece of sheet metal in there that you're going to make round, and it'll connect to the back of the vent. Then we're going to need some 14 gauge wiring. We've got some 14.3 Romex and some 14.2 Romex. And we'll show you how that's going to be installed. And let's move on over to the tools that we're going to need. All right, here's the tools we're going to be using. We're going to be using this fine multi-tool here by Milwaukee to cut in the hole. Or if you don't have that, you don't want to go out and buy one of those, just a sheetrock saw will work just fine. Got some strippers here for the wiring. Got a tape measure. And I'm going to be using this Milwaukee router saw here outside to cut the hole in on the siding. We'll show you how that operates. We're going to have to cut a pretty good size hole. You can use a hole saw, but we've got hardyback siding, and I found this thing here works really well. It doesn't get away from you, and you can control it. We're going to need an impact gun or just a drill where you can use your bits, Phillips or Torx. And then we have a Milwaukee drill, and we'll show you what we're going to use that for. And then over here in this bag, I've got some chain in here for fishing wires down the wall. So we'll show you how we're going to use that to get the wiring down the wall. And then I've got these long rods here. They're 24-inch rods. They use these to hold up insulation under the house in your floor joists. I'm going to use these to poke up through the sheetrock because it leaves a very, very small hole, pinhole in the sheetrock that you can fill if you need to. But this will give you an idea of where you're at up in the attic so you don't cut the hole in the wrong spot. And then here you've got a really strong magnet. We're going to use this to find the ceiling trusses This will find the sheetrock screws instead of buying one of those real high-tech sheetrock stud finders. This thing right here is amazing. So I'm going to show you how you can find the studs just using a real powerful magnet. So let's go ahead and open up the exhaust fan box and see what we got inside. All right, let's open it up here, see what we got. So this is our fan mounting bracket here and the template. So we're going to set that off to the side. This is the grill with the light, as you can see here. It's got the wiring harness here, just plugs in. And then you got your torsion springs on the side. It's got these torsion springs that you just kind of hold up here and fit them into the allotted slots on the fan itself. So the light doesn't really stick up much in the grill here, but these are pretty amazing fans. We've installed several of these already. So let's pull out the fan. Set the grill off to the side so you don't step on it or break it in the middle of your installation. Here's some instructions. These instructions are very detailed, tells you everything about the fan, all the wiring you're going to need, how you're going to wire it. So set that off to the side. And now let's pull out the fan. Now I'm going to keep this box. So when I go to cut that hole, I'm going to use this box as kind of a trash can to hold and collect all the dust and the sheetrock parts. So here's the fan. You can see that big, massive 6-inch duct outlet there. And this thing, it moves a lot of air. So if you've got a bathroom that gets a lot of moisture in it because of hot showers and the mirrors fogging up, windows fogging up, you got moisture on the ceiling, this fan is going to help solve that problem. Now you can see down here, it has your selector switch here for different modes of CFM. So you can do, well, it looks like it'll do 130 to 150. So that's the switch. We're going to go to max. There's no point in having it at 130 when it'll do 150. So at 150, it's 0.6 zones. And I believe when it's on 130, it's 0.4. So we're going to go ahead and go into the bathroom now and figure out where we're going to rough this in. So it's not a very big bathroom, but essentially where we want to place this is we're going to be trying to get it right up between, well, not so much in the shower, but we're going to be just right outside of it, right in the center between this wall and that wall there. We're going to try to get it up in here. We're going to figure out where the trusses are. And then as far as the switches go, we're going to mount those in this side wall, interior wall right here. We're going to just kind of put them off over here to where it's kind of next to the toilet area. You can turn it on there. It's kind of congested in this wall over here. There's a whole lot going on over there. We've got a mirror. So we're just going to find that this is going to be the easiest spot for the wiring and the switches. So we've got this magnet right here. I'm going to take this thing. Oh, well, there's a stud right there. This is a joist right here, or a ceiling truss. So what I'm doing is I'm picking up the sheetrock screws that hold the lid to the truss work. So there is a sheetrock screw. Move it down to find another one over in here. Let's see. There's one. There's another one. So if you just let it go, so you can mark that with a pencil. I usually use a pencil. You don't want to use a pen because you won't get it off the ceiling unless you're going to repaint the ceiling. So I'm just gonna kind of put a small little dot there. There's another one. Now I'm gonna go over here and figure out where the next one starts. There it is. There's one right there. There's another one. Come out over in here. They don't have any sheetrock screws. So what it's showing here is that that's a 16-inch space there. So essentially I want to get the fan in between these two marks right here. So before I do anything and I just start cutting, I want to make sure that there's nothing up there like plumbing, HVAC duct, a platform. I mean, you're going to stick these rods up in there and you're going to go up and check and see what's up there, because you don't want to just cut a hole and then you find out you got a plenum or you've got some 2-inch drain pipe. Who knows what's up there? So I'm going to use these and I'm going to just stick this up in there. This is kind of where I'm going to be putting it anyhow. It is kind of over in the shower a little bit. It is next to the toilet, but this thing's 150 CFM, so it's going to take whatever odor is over in this area where the toilet is, it's going to pull it out of here real fast. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to stick this in the center because I know I'm going to be cutting this area out. Let's get this thing up in there. And this is for the switch bank. This is where we know where to install the switch bank. Now, I'm not going to go too far over to the right because I know I have plumbing in there. There's a shower valve on the other side, but right in this area right here, I know that there's not a vent pipe right here because I already went up and looked. So anyhow, all the vent pipes are all the way out over here. So I'm just going to stick this rod, and like I said, you can fill in these holes with caulking real quick. So I just push that all the way up, and I have a crown here, so I just got to take in consideration this thing's sticking off the wall about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to come over. If I don't see the top plate up there, which is the 2x4, it may just be sheetrock. I just know that I have to come over a few inches to find the center of this wall. So when I drill the hole, I'm in the wall. So let's go upstairs or up in the attic and see what we got. All right, here's the attic. You can see the gable vent all the way down at the end, at the peak. That's where we're going to be installing our hood vent. It's going to go out the side down there. It looks like it's about 25 feet. So we're going to head down to the location where those rods are. All right, so here we are, just looking around. I thought that the rods were going to be somewhere over in here, but they are right there. There's one, that's for the fan, and then the one over there to the right, as you can see, that one is where the switches are going to go in that proximity. I got to measure to the left of that rod 3.5 inches, and that'll get me dead center over the wall. So I did bring a drill up with me, trying to accomplish several things when I come up in the attic. In case it's really hot in the attic, you want to really plan it out so you're not up there too long. If it is very, very hot up there, you just want to spend as small amounts of time as possible so you don't get heat exhaustion and all that good stuff. So I'm installing this. It's fairly cool outside. So I did bring up the bracket with me. I'm just going to place it in there and see how it fits and what it looks like. All right, so I've cleaned the insulation out. As you can see, the magnet worked pretty good. We're pretty much in the dead center of this truss bay here. So I just set the bracket in here just to kind of see, how it's going to go. So it's going to work just fine. And then over here, I cleaned out where I need to drill my hole. Now I brought my drill. I got a 3/4 drill bit. I'm going to drill 2 holes. I marked it. It's from where I'm at, it's 3.5 inches from the rod to the center of that wall. So when I drill this hole, I'm not going to come out in the ceiling. I'm going to be in the wall. So let's go ahead and drill this hole here. All right, so we're here at the fan. We need to get this disassembled here. So there's a wiring harness right here. You're going to squeeze the sides there and pull the wiring harness off. That's the fan body there. This is where your electrical is going to be housed. This is where we're going to run the wiring. Then there's a little Phillips screw right here. I've already backed it out. You're going to remove this screw and set it off to the side for safekeeping. You don't want to lose that. Now, this adapter here, the fan body adapter, we're going to slide this off the fan. So you can kind of see here, you're just going to slide up on it and just pull this thing and just set it off to the side. We're going to install this here in just a few minutes. So according to the directions here, they're wanting us to cut a hole that's 10 7/8 by 10 7/8 square. So in between the 2 studs, or ceiling joists. I keep calling them studs, but they're ceiling joists. So we're going to cut that out. Now we're going to lay it out and cut it out. All right, I got the square marked out on the ceiling, 10 7/8 by 10 7/8 right there. And to get my first line, I measured from that trim right there, and I came out and I made the back line right here. I got that as straight as possible, and then this is one of the tools that I used. I used a framing square to make sure I got a square hole. So I used a framing square. You don't have to use this one, something smaller, something that's square that you can make a nice square area up there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out using my Milwaukee multi-tool. We got that hole cut. So now we're going to move over to where the switch is going to go. There's the 2-gang switch bank, and we're going to lay that out and cut that out as well. So I've got the magnet here. Obviously, we've got a corner here it's a metal corner for the sheetrock. So this thing's going to pick it up no matter what. But I went ahead, I'm just kind of seeing if there's more studs. Maybe they'll put 2 or 3 studs in here, and you got to build it out, but it seems pretty hollow in here. So before I just cut this hole out, I'm going to take the keyhole saw. I marked where the top of the box is. I'm going to use, this isn't a cut-in box, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this ear off, and I'm going to use this because it just has a lot of depth to it. It's deeper than a lot of different cut-in boxes, but I'm going to side screw this thing once I get it in here to the stud with 2 or 3 sheetrock screws. So I'm just cutting in a perfect square here on the sheetrock. So this guy's going to go in here like that. But before I lay that out, I'm going to take the keyhole saw and find where the side of this stud is by just sticking this in. Carefully just work it in, and it feels like I'm on a stud right there. So there's some wood right there, so I'm gonna have to go to the right a little bit. So let's come over here. There we go. So that's the side of the stud. So I might have to patch that just a little bit, some sheetrock. So that's the side of the stud right here. So that's where this box is going to literally be to the left, mounted to the stud, going to the right. So let's go ahead and mark this out with a pencil using a level. So let me just mark that again here. where the side of the stud is. Side of the stud is right there, so I get the box in the right spot. So that's the side of the stud. Put a level on it, make sure your box is level, and then trace it out. All right. So now I'm going to go to the right with this keyhole saw just to make sure. Yeah, we're good there. All right. So let's go ahead and just cut this thing out. Alrighty. Well, got a little bit of stuff back there. Might have to use a little bit shallower box. See, sometimes you don't know what's in there. So there is a piece of wood in there. They're using it probably for supporting the plumbing. But that's fine. We'll just have to use a different box. It's the same size hole, so that's not going to mess us up, but just a little bit shallower box. So alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and I drilled the hole up there. I got 2 holes drilled, and that's where our wiring is going to be coming down. And then we're going to be running 2 14-2s, 2 14-2 Romexes down to this box. One will be for power. The other 14-2 is going to power up the fan. And then the 14-3 cable, Romex, it's going to come down here. That's going to work our lights, the night light and the other light. So there's several wires going to come down here. So we're going to go ahead and run the wiring now. Before I go up into the attic with the wiring, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mount this bracket up in the hole, have that in place. Now this bracket here, it kind of hinges in the center so you can get it up into the hole. It's pretty nifty. It already has the screws. Your screws are already in it, so you don't have to sit there and mess around with the screws. So it's a nice bracket. So we got that. And then on the housing here, the housing adapter, you'll notice there's some blue tape and there's some screws here. You want to take that tape off. You don't want to forget about that, because if you don't take that blue tape off, your housing, the flapper will stay well taped. It's not going to work. So we got that freed up. Now you'll notice that there's 2 round concentric knockouts on the J box right here. We're going to go ahead and remove this one. You could take a flathead screwdriver and stick it in there and just pry it back and forth. That'll pop out. You're going to take this one out as well. So there's 2. You're going to take those out, and that's on the J box. So we'll take, there's a screw right here. You could take the cover off that. I'll probably end up taking this and sticking it up through the hole in the ceiling, so I don't have to carry it all the way through the attic and bend it up and ruin it. So it'll be up there. It's going to mount on the bracket once I get the bracket installed. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick before we go up and start pulling wire. All right, so here we got the bracket. We're going to hinge it, of course. Stick it up in here. Try to do it without having insulation fall on you. And now it spreads out, so when you get it up into the area there, just spread it out. You want the edge of the bracket, you'll see there's like a center line on the bracket. You're going to want that right up to the edge of your sheetrock there that you cut out. And then just take a drill, Phillips and you're gonna install the screws.
All right, I'm up in the attic. I got my 3 cables. So this is the 14.2 that's going to run to the fan. This is a 14.2 that I ran. This is where I'm going to pick up power. So your situation may be different. You may be pulling power from maybe the plug or lighting circuit up in your attic. That's going to kind of determine where you're going to get power. You'll have to figure that part out. So as far as the switch legs running the fan lights, this is a 14.3 right here. So I'm going to run a 14.3. So I've got these 3 cables right here that are going to go down the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these up to a chain. I'm going to show you how that's done. So I've got all 3 of these here. I'm going to run this one out kind of long. That's going to be the one I'm going to connect to the chain. I'm going to stagger these a little bit here, and I'm going to start back here with some tape, keeping them kind of tight together here. And when I'm wrapping this tape, I'm pulling on it to make it nice and tight. Now sometimes I would connect every cable to the chain, but I'm not going to have much problems getting this down the wall. I don't have insulation in the wall, so just make sure there's no rough edges or anything to that nature that will get caught on anything. But I'm going to go ahead and take the neutral, and I'm just going to cut this off. Then I'm going to take the end of the chain. I'm using this big ball of chain here. This is just like jack chain. You can get this at Home Depot. It's pretty heavy. I have different size chains. So I'm going to take one wire, run it through this direction, and then take the other wire, run it through the other way. So essentially, this is kind of what it looks like here. You're running it through, and then you're going to tape this up all the way up to the jack chain. So that's kind of what it looks like when it's all said and done. So it's nice and taped all the way back about 10 inches. So now I'm going to take the end of the chain and I'm going to drop it down the hole that I drilled for the 2-gang box. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, if you got somebody down there, it'll help a lot with grabbing the wire. But if it's hard, if you got pipes in the wall or something, that's where you're going to use this little bendable magnet that I've got. It's on a stick. I'll show you what that looks like. But so far, as long as you drill a pretty good sized hole, you should have no problem. All right, so that should probably be enough wire. I'm going to go down and see what we got coming out the hole, see if we can pull it out. This is a magnet right here. You can see I've already got the wire right here, but I'm just going to show you here real quick. You can stick this down in there, pull the jack chain out with the magnet, and then grab the jack chain for leverage here. sent quite a bit down there. Didn't need all that, but the heavier it is, it just pulls it right down. So there we go. That's plenty of wire coming out of this hole now. In fact, I got a little bit too much. I could probably pull that back. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie this off down here since I'm the only one working on this, and just so when I go to pull it back, I don't pull too much wire up. I'm gonna go back up into the attic, and we're gonna go ahead and hook up to the J-box and wire up the fan. Before I head up, I'm gonna take a couple of these 6-inch ducts. I'm gonna go ahead and tape them up and assemble them down here because I need about 30 feet total. I don't want to have to do all this up in the attic, so I'm gonna do it down here where it's cool and I can actually manage the pipe. I gotta take this pipe here and stretch it out both ends. So sometimes it's easier if you got another person that can grab onto one end and you just pull on it and it'll stretch out to 8 feet. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I've got these couplers here. I'm gonna stick these in here in the ends and run them in and then tape these up with the metal tape. And so this tape, it's great for heat, but it sticks to the metal really good. It won't pull apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble a few of these and then drag up, probably 20 feet all assembled up into the attic. And then I'm gonna leave probably 2 pieces unconnected to where I can tape that to the fan adapter housing. So when you go to cut your tape, just wrap it around it, and then you can kind of get a measurement of how much tape you need, and then just make about 3 or 4 of those, or however many links you need, and then now you've got a perfect measurement of how much tape you need per connection. So in the J box, we've got our wire that we've ran to the J box on the fan. We have a 14.3 and we have a 14.2. So what you're going to do with the 14.3, it has a black, a red, a white, and a ground. We're going to tie the red wire to the blue wire in the junction box on the fan. That's your night light switch leg. And then we're going to take the black wire in the 14.3 and tie that to the black wire in the J box, which controls the light. And then we're going to take on the other 14.2 Romex that we ran in there, we're going to take the black wire in that cable and tie it to the fan. So after you've done that, we'll now gather all the white wires. So that's all the wires, all the white wires from your Romex cables and the white wire coming out of the fan, and we're going to carefully tie all those together. And then after you do that, then you'll take your ground wires, the bare copper and the green wire in the fan, and tie all those together, and you'll have your fan wired completely. And then we'll put the J box cover back on and proceed to the next step. I'm going to take this adapter. You can see there's a lip down here. This is going to go on the bottom of the sheetrock, like on the lid, like on the painted surface of the sheetrock. So I'm going to insert this over here. Hopefully I can get this positioned where you can see what I'm doing.
So I've got it slid in there. I'm gonna go down below and give you a better look at what it looks like, because we got to mount 2 screws on the flange. So let's go do that real quick. So this is what it looks like here down below. The flange comes over. You can see I've already got 1 Phillips screw in it here. It's a self-tapper. It's about 2 inches long. And I'm gonna go ahead and finish driving this one. And that goes into the bracket that we mounted. This bracket right here. So that's nice and tight. So now I'm gonna just go ahead and take the housing and slide it up in here. Take the fan housing, and you can see this is where the air comes out. And it's going to be that square area there. It'll be in between those 2 screws. And just carefully slide it on up. Slide it on up, and then you'll see over on this side, there's 2 holes over there for 2 more screws. Install those screws once you get it up. I'm trying to do this with one hand. So now we've got that 1 screw that has to go in this hole right here, and then we're going to go ahead and plug in the wiring harness for the fan, and then we'll also, when we go to install the grill, we'll install the other wiring harness onto that adapter right there to the right. Make sure you select your fan speed on the switch right there, whether it's 130 or 150. Make sure you determine what speed you want before you put the grill on. All right, so we've got the grill and the wiring harness here. You're gonna plug that one in right on that other pigtail there. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that one. Now you'll take these torsion springs here, bring them up and squeeze them like a pair of scissors here. You're gonna insert it up into that slot. You can see it right there. It's about the best I can do as far as filming that. And there you go. So the fan is installed, it's wired, we got the trim on, and the light housing is plugged in. And so now we got to go back up in the attic, complete the duct work, and cut the hole on the outside of the siding for the vent. Next step, I'm outside. I'm going to be installing the louvered vent on the exterior of the house. I'm going to be cutting a 6-inch hole in the siding. I'm going to be using this cutout tool by Milwaukee. As you can see here, the siding is hardy back, so it's kind of a cement board. I'm going to be using, in this tool here, a carbide bit first to cut through this layer of hardy back, and then once I get through this, there's some wood shear behind it, and I'll just switch over, which this is a wood bit right here. They call it a saber bit, and it cuts through the wood. Now you could use a hole saw if you wanted to, but I just use this tool here because if you take a hole saw and you go through this hardy backer, just a regular hole saw, you're going to dull the teeth out real quick unless it's a carbide tipped masonry hole saw. You'll just ruin it in this, and I'm sure a 6-inch hole saw is probably $40, $50. So this tool right here works amazing. I use it all the time for multiple things. And I've got this case over here that just has my bits in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the box, and I'm gonna put it together, and I'll show you what it looks like. 6-inch louvered vent. It's made by Everbuilt. Got this from Home Depot. This is a 6-inch, so we're using a 6-inch louvered vent hood door. You can see that they got this one mounted on the exterior brick. It is plastic, it's like vinyl. So here's the vent. This is what it looks like.
So it's gonna mount, this is the upside right here. So if you flip it over, what ends up happening is the vent doors open. You don't wanna mount it like that because water's gonna go in here, wasps, bugs. So make sure when you mount it, it's like this. And so these doors automatically open when the airflow begins to come from the fan. So that's this piece here, and then you've got your duct, and it just looks like a piece of flat sheet metal, and there is a groove on this side here. You can see there's a groove right here. So you're just gonna take this thing, make it round, and if I can do this here, you're gonna stick that piece right in there like so, and it just snaps together. It's pretty easy. So now we've got a 6-inch duct here, and you'll see that there's some cutouts here at the end. That's gonna snap into the back side of the fan. Actually, it'll go inside. You can see there's tabs. There's a tab right here. There's 3 tabs, or actually 4. So, and those little notches, those rectangular notches that you see there, those will kind of slide right into it. Okay, here we go. So this thing's in. We've got you can kind of see the tabs, they came through. It's nice and solid. I am gonna go ahead and run some aluminum tape around this edge here just to seal it before I install it. I'm up on the ladder. I got my hole marked. I draw yourself a circle on the siding. I've come down from this upper siding here just so I'm not cutting into it. But I'm gonna cut through these 2 pieces here. I did go inside and assess it. So, you know, there's a 2x4 that comes down on this side and a 2x4 that comes down on this side. So this is open right here. So you wanna just make sure, don't just cut a hole on the outside of the siding hoping that it's gonna work, and then you come to find out that you cut into a 2x4 truss or something. So I assessed this. This is where I'm gonna put it, just below the gable vent here. And I've got my bit and my saw. That's the carbide tip that I'm using. And this is a Milwaukee cutout tool. And I've got a 18-volt 5.0 battery in it. And I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting. So I cut the hole out with that multi-tool. This is the hardy back. You can kind of see it's cement board, but I thought I was recording it, but I didn't. But I'll just show you how easy it is to cut this stuff with this saw. If that was a wood bit, I probably would have only gotten to about right here, and it just would have burned out. So it definitely works real well for cutting hardy back. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this blade over, and I'm gonna cut out the rest of the hole with the wood bit. I've got the hole all cut out, hardy back and the plywood. So here's the vent. I put some tape around it to seal it, and also so this doesn't come off the actual plastic housing. And I have some Dynaflex DAP exterior white silicone, because I'm gonna go ahead and caulk around it. I've got some white screws, and I've got my Milwaukee drill here, torque, and I'm gonna go ahead and install these screws here. I'm using torque heads. I just like them just because they don't come off, they don't strip out like Phillips. So I'm gonna go ahead and go up on the ladder and get up there and install the duct. The vent hood is installed, and now I'm gonna go ahead and go up into the attic and finish the installation. I'll connect it to the vent hood and then strap up the duct, and I should be pretty much finished in the attic. And I'll go down into the bathroom and install the switches and power up the fan. Up in the attic now, I got the exhaust fan duct. It's all connected, and it's running about 30 feet all the way down. You can see the hole down there. So it's right up against these vertical truss supports here, and I'm gonna get it up off the insulation here
after I connect it down there, and I'm going to strap it up so it's just not sitting on the insulation, just kind of get it up out of the way. So I'm going to go down there and connect the pipe up to the ducting and tape it up, and then I'll start strapping. The 6-inch ducting is all strapped up. It's connected all the way down at the end. I think you can see that. I got it all strapped up in case anybody ever had to come up here and climb around. They don't step on your duct when it's laying on the insulation. This stuff will just crush. So I got it up off the insulation. So if a plumber, electrician, somebody comes up here, they don't destroy it. So, all right, we're gonna go down and install the switches and power up the fan. All right, here's our switches here we're going to be using. We're using this timer switch here. It does, as you can see, you can select 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes, just depending on how much steam you got in your bathroom, how long you want the fan. These are great, so you don't accidentally leave the fan running all day. You can turn it on. So this fan here, it has your line side, which is your hot wire coming in, the switch leg that goes to the fan. Either one of these black wires, it doesn't matter which one you use for what, it shows you right there, line load or line load. So you can't get messed up there. You have a ground wire here, and then you are going to be connecting your neutral wire to this fan switch. And then we also have a stack switch here. You got 2 Decora switches, and we're going to wire this one up. This is going to be for the lights, and that particular switch will have all the product numbers and everything down below for you. So if you want to order it, this is a Leviton. It's a 6534-WS, and this is white. And this particular timer switch, that number is a DT160-LW, and that's also Leviton. And then we got our 2-gang box. I cut the ear off on this side, and I'm just going to take 2 sheetrock screws, and I'm going to side screw them here up against the stud inside the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with all that. All right, we got all the wires that we marked. We know that the 14.3, it's got some stripes down the wire here. That's going to be for the lights. We got the wire here marked fan. And then this one here is the power, which isn't hooked up. So we've got all that marked. So we're going to go ahead and install these wires down into the box. I've already got my screws installed in the box, so I'm not fumbling around in here. It's always easy to take a sheetrock screw, start it at an angle from this side, run your screws through, back them out, and then re-enter them on the inside of the box. It just makes it easier. So the screws are already in the box, they're ready to go. Sometimes it's hard to get that angle, and the screws just want to slip off. I like to get the box to where it's just flush with the sheetrock, and go ahead and tighten it down. All right, let's get our strippers and box cutter. We'll go ahead and get the sheathing off the wire. We're going to leave these labels just so we know what's what. That's the fan cable. I'm just clipping that little label off. I'm going to slide it on there and just bend the wire over so it doesn't fall off there. So I don't really have to use any tape to label the wire. I'm just using the Romex sheathing.
That's our power. We know that. This is our 14.3, the light. And I've got this cable coming over here in the first hole because we want our lights to come on first and the fan will go on this side here. So the first switch they grab will be the light switch. So I'm just getting all the paper off. I've got the sheeting coming down into the box about an inch or so, maybe a little less, just so we're not taking up a bunch of room. So I'm going to go ahead and take the ground wires and make all those up. Now you can use a wire nut or a ground barrel. In this situation here, I'm just going to use a wire nut because I don't have my ground barrel here and I've already started the video. So I took all the grounds, I cut them. They're 6 inches long here coming in, but I've got 2 pigtail wires to go off to each switch. I'm going to group them together, make sure the wires are all at the end, and go ahead and put on the wire nut and twist it until the wires twist together. Give it a few good twists. If you have a good wire nut, it won't keep twisting. These are ideal wire nuts. Alright, so I'm going to move these off to the side. So I got my neutral wires, the white ones. I'm going to make those up. I'm going to do similar to what I did with the grounds, but I'm going to put 1 pigtail on the ground wire bundle here because I have a neutral wire that needs to go to the timer switch. So white wires grouped together. I'm going to use an ideal tan wire nut. Get your wires all up together there. Go ahead and put that one on. Okay, so we've got the 2 wires that are switch legs, a black and a red, coming out of the 14.3. This is our power. So we got 1 wire coming off and we got 2 devices. So we're going to go ahead, we don't need all the length on this here. So I'm going to cut it about 6 to 7 inches sticking out of the box. I'm going to use this wire, which is about 10 inches or so, along with another wire here that I'm going to cut from the main power feed, and I'm going to strip them back. So I've got 2 pigtails coming off this single wire feeding this box. So this is powering up the box. This 114.2 here, this is the hot wire. I got 2 pigtails and each wire goes to the device. Each device. 1 wire per device. So I'm going to go ahead and wire nut those. Then I'll just peel off these 2 wires. So the hot wires are down on the bottom. These 2, hot, fan wire, lights. So we're ready to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and just start on the fan wire here, or the fan switch rather. So they give you some orange wire nuts that come with it. I'm going to go ahead and use those. Let's go ahead and cut this back. You obviously, if you're not comfortable with working on power, just do all this with the power off. But you may have to have a voltage tester to check which one's hot if you get confused. So I'm going to start with the neutral wire, and I'm going to connect that to the white wire on the fan switch, which is the timer. Get another orange wire nut. I'm going to do the ground, which is the green wire with the yellow stripe. That's connecting to the bare copper. ground wire that came into the 14.2 Romex. Now I'm just going to pick a black wire and connect it. It doesn't matter which one. Just connect it up to a black wire on this side over here. Not these wires, those are going to our light switch. And then you've got another black wire here. That's going to connect to the other wire on the timer switch, the last black wire. All right, let's move on over to the Decora stack switch. So as you can see here on one side of the switch, there's two black screws. That's your power side. And then two gold screws. This is where your switch legs go. See how these two black screws here, there's a copper bar here that connects them both together. So it doesn't matter which screw you land the wire on, as long as this stays intact. If you were to take needle nose, you could actually wiggle that back and forth and you can break that off to isolate both screws. So I'm going to go ahead and just connect it to the top wire. That's the power. And the power is turned off. I know that. So I'm connecting that. And then I'm not quite sure which side I'm going to put the night light on, top or bottom, but I could always flip the switch if I had to. So I'm going to go ahead and install the two switch legs, the red and the black, on the gold side of the switch. Gold side. Alright, so these switches are ready to be installed. So let's go ahead and fold the wires in. Make sure your ground wire doesn't touch any of your screws on the side of your switch, otherwise it'll short out. Just tuck them back in there nice and neat. I usually just snug them up. I don't tighten them up all the way until I get all the switches in. Just fold these wires in there too. Make sure your switch is right side up so you can read it on the timer. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab the plate. I'm using it's a Leviton nylon wall plate. It's a little oversized. I bought an oversized. I do that just because when I'm using a cut-in box, sometimes the hole gets a little bit oversized, and usually the jumbo plate will cover everything, in which this case it does. So I'm gonna go ahead and install the screws. All right, here's the fan. I got the lights off. So first switch, night light, and then the next switch is the main light. Wow, that's nice and bright. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick on the fan. That's super quiet. You can't even hardly hear it.
Now it's kicking up a little bit more. Well, it's got some good suction. That's a pretty heavy duty. It's one of those blue shop rags, and it's holding that thing up to the fan register, so it's sucking some air. Here's a close-up of the switches we installed. It's on 10 minutes now, so every time you push a button, it'll tell you which one you're on. So that's 20, 30, 60, and if you want to just turn it off, down at the bottom, main light, night light. So it's a nice switch install. I like the vinyl. So I hope this fan install helped you out to where you can do it yourself. So thank you for watching You Can Do It, and stay tuned for our next video. I'll put all the links to all the materials that I used and the tools down at the bottom, so you won't have to search hard for it. It'll all be there for you. So thank you for watching our videos. Stay tuned for the next one.